Hello, whisperers. Welcome to the channel. If you enjoy tonight's tale, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. It helps more than you know. Now, dim the lights, and let's begin tonight's story. January in the Rockies makes your breath hurt. The air feels thin and sharp, like it's been stored in a metal box. We rode a snowcat up a service road that stopped pretending to be a road after the second drift. The driver pointed with 2 fingers at a dark smudge in a bowl of spruce. "Ranger cabin," he said. "Doors gone. You folks sure about this?" Mercer gave him that calm look that makes questions fold up. "We'll walk from here." Dalton checked his left hand. The scar from the Smokies cuts pale through his hairline. He caught me looking and smirked. "Still works," he said. "Mostly." We stepped out and the cold took our ears first. The snow had that dry squeak under our shoes, the kind that tells you this place is not for you. Sun was a dull coin. Wind ran steady along the ridge and made a long, even note. My head catalogs now. Count exits, count light, count strange. I didn't do that in '88. I do it every time now. The cabin door wasn't kicked. It was pushed, slow, until the wood gave up with a soft crack and sagged inward. Inside, you could taste iron, not a spray scene. Whoever did this didn't panic. Bones stacked near the stove, long cuts, meat gone in clean strips. A coat hung on a peg, sleeve missing, edge cut straight. Windows cracked from pressure and cold. The stove door was open. Ash drifted across the floor like gray dust. Dalton stood in the frame and breathed fog. "Feels wrong," he said. "It is wrong," Mercer said, crouching. He lifted a femur with gloved fingers, turned it to the weak light, set it down soft. "He treats bones like people. I learned to copy that. It helps keep the rooms in your head neat." Searchers had stomped ruin across the floor, but under the threshold, a better trail hid where the drift slid in. Narrow, bare feet at first, light. Later in the same trackway, the prints sank deeper, more weight, toes splayed, nail grooves at the tips, long stride for a frame that thin. Don't call it a man. Don't call it an animal. Call it a problem. We looped the yard, broken fence at the north corner. 2 strings of brown dots led uphill into spruce. Not a spill, a ration. Wind threw a thin curtain of snow across the slope and then fell away, and the whole mountain held its breath. That's when I heard the sound, small at first, wrong anyway. Click, 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 tiny teeth ticking together, not chatter. More like someone testing a key in a lock. It ran a line up my forearms. Mercer's eyes touched mine. "Yes, that." We went uphill on snowshoes, single file, using old blazes where we could. The cold got inside the gloves and made every finger the same finger. I count steps when the ground is bad. At 30, I scan left and right. At 60, I set my jaw loose. At 90, I remind myself to breathe. This is how I stop the old fire from walking back in. The trail led to a shallow bowl of willow and windpack. An elk lay half buried in the center, ribs clean on one side, hide folded back like a thrown coat, not ripped, peeled. bits set in a little pile the way you'd stack wood before loading it. Slow work, careful work. My skin tried to step away from me. Dalton mouthed, "Wind." "Honest enough," Mercer said. "We smell like oil and coffee. If it's near, it knows." We watched. The long note on the ridge rose a half step and dropped again. When the wind fell, the silence had weight. My teeth hurt in the roots. Then, out of the fir line, a pale shape leaned and studied the bowl. It slid more than stepped, joints moving like reminders, skin gray, tight, cheeks drawn back so the mouth looked too wide, eyes sunken in deep like two small wells. Frost made a line on its chin where breath had been catching. It should have shivered. It didn't. Cold lived here. This thing had learned to live with it. Dalton raised his MP5 an inch. Mercer tapped his wrist and signed, "Wait, watch, pattern." The thing passed the elk without looking. It bent and touched the crust with its fingertips like it was reading, nails black and long. Then the teeth again, click, 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 light and quick. Not speech, memory of movement. It turned its head and the ear, thin, torn at the edge, twitched toward our slope. I moved my heel a fraction to set a better brace. The crust made a sound like dry glass cracking. The head snapped. It didn't search. It chose. It flowed out of the willow and started up toward us, quiet as sifting flour. No rush, no show, just decision drawn out into the world. "Left funnel," Dalton whispered. I nodded. We shuffled a meter along the drift to where two young spruce made a narrow door. If it tried to jump past, it would have to show belly or back. Either way, we would have something to break. It came up the last stretch and showed more detail than I wanted. The neck looked too long for the body. The ribs shifted like slats under a tight drumhead. The mouth hung open to pull more air through. The teeth weren't knives. They were long and dull and meant for scraping. Grooves worn smooth from work. My brain tried to hand me a word for the face. I didn't take it. "Let it pick," Mercer breathed. "Don't teach it for free." It picked me. I don't know if it read the weight shift or smelled the fear. It came low and fast, one elbow dragging a line in the crust. The sound was like dry wood under stress. I put two into the hip socket and saw the frame jolt, not in pain, but because function got interrupted. It twisted harder than joints like that should twist, kept coming. I put one where the jaw meets throat to turn the head, not to end it. Old lesson from other hunts. And the skull skipped a hand's width. It still reached me. Close, the breath was dead cold. Not rot, just winter air pushed through a thin machine. The teeth closed on my hood and sheared it clean. Cold slid down my neck like a wire. I dropped to the side as the arm swept for my face and missed by inches. Dalton's burst tore into the supporting knee, and the leg folded wrong. The thing didn't cry out. It made a thin, dry groan, like a beam giving a little. "Down," Mercer called, not loud, sharp. I went to a knee in the drift and the crust tried to hold me there. The thing turned for Dalton because hunger finds weakness. Dalton was strong, but he was braced wide, and the snow punished that. I fired again at the hinge in the back where shoulder meets spine and felt the stock hop. It stuttered. That same short jolt. Mercer came in low and drove something dark up under the skull base like he always does when it's time to shut a thing off. It went still, hands flexing, then slack, then slid sideways and vanished under the drift face like white had swallowed it. We held angles and listened. Wind found its note again, dragged it across the bowl. My heartbeat made a soft tick in my ears. The teeth sound came from our right this time, closer, quick, click, click, click. Then a slow scrape, like nails testing ice. It wasn't retreat. It was reposition. Mercer signed press, left push, right catch. Old pincer. We moved without talking. The cold had gotten into my jaw. My voice would have come out small anyway. I slid left, kept the muzzle low, watched for the hinge. Dalton swung right, weight careful. Mercer held center and forward. The pale shape bled out of a fur shadow, low and ready, eyes dark holes. It angled for Dalton. The slope below him was bad, crust over nothing. My gut said he'd lose one step there. The thing had the same idea. I exhaled slow until the sight stopped shaking. Put it where jaw meets throat again. 2 quick taps. The head turned. Dalton stitched the knees. The body folded toward the door we wanted. I stepped in to finish, and the snow under my front foot collapsed. I dropped to my hip, half buried, gun high but legs stuck. The thing pivoted on one elbow and came straight for my face, teeth working, hands spread. No time for the gun. I brought the knife up short. Find the base, find the cord. If there is one, cut it. If not, break the part that makes it move. The blade met something tight under the skull, and the handle buzzed, a faint live wire feel through gloves. It didn't stop. It kept pushing, jaw opening wider in that too thin face, breath cold enough to burn. My shoulders hit a buried log, the knife jammed high and held. My left arm was all that kept the mouth off my throat, elbow shaking. The world went small, teeth cold, and a thin, dry sound from its chest that felt like it wanted my name. "Hold," Mercer said, somewhere just beyond my left. Calm, close. The word fogged and snapped in the air. "Hold," he said again. I held. The knife buzzed against bone. The teeth came down another inch. My arm burned. The wind stopped. The mountain waited. That's where it all tipped. Mercer didn't shoot. He shifted his weight and put his boot against my calf, pinning me steady so the knife stayed where bone hummed. "Hold," he said again, soft, like telling a skittish horse the bridge will take us. The thing's jaw pressed down another inch. Its teeth skimmed my sleeve and shaved threads. Cold air poured over my face, empty air, dead air, and then the wind hit the ridge and slapped all 3 of us with blowing ice. The gust took the creature's balance for a heartbeat. It twitched, not in pain, in math, rechecking angles. Mercer moved in that same breath and drove his short tool up under the skull base, the way he did in Tennessee. The body jerked like wire under a glove. The weight came off my arm. It wasn't over. It rolled back, long and thin, and slid into the white like it had always belonged there. The wind did the rest. Snow came sideways, hard grains that stung skin, and turned our world into a 10-foot room. The mountains swallowed sound. My breath sounded wrong in my own head, too loud, like I was giving us away. "Line, tight," Mercer said. "Short bounds. Eyes on hips, not hands. Dalton's copy, came thin through the blow. He was to my right, 10 paces, a dark cutout in a moving wall. I rose out of the drift, and my knees shook once, and then remembered their job. I felt older in that moment, not wiser, used. But used things don't fail if you treat them right. I ran the check: fingers, grip, mag, sling, knife, light. We moved. The bowl's edges vanished. Our plan shrank with the visibility until it was just don't lose each other. Don't give it a free flank. The teeth sound came once on our left. Fast click, click, click. And then ahead of us. And then it was nowhere at all. It wasn't playing. It was reading us the way it had read the crust. "Stop," Mercer said. The three of us froze. He put a glove to the snow, felt, then pointed with 2 fingers. Downslope drift, thin crust, trap ground. I had been about to step there. I felt stupid, and then I felt grateful that I got to feel stupid while still standing. The wind found a lower note and held it. From somewhere in that gray room, I heard a small dry scrape, nail on ice, and then silence. It was moving parallel, trying to make us overcorrect and open a door behind us. I slid my gaze to the right. Dalton's silhouette was a shade lighter than the trees. He lifted 2 fingers. Right sweep. I nodded and shifted to cover his lane. The blow thickened. My world went to shapes and force. Mercer signaled go and we bounded. 3 steps, plant, scan. 3 steps, plant, scan. My brain tried to decorate the fog with faces. I let it try and then took the pen back. Observe, orient, decide, act, keep it plain. It hit when my foot found packed snow and my heel skated a 1/2 inch. A pale arm scythed out of the white and raked my chest rig. Nails caught nylon and bit through. The tug spun me half around. I fired where the elbow met the body. The rounds pushed it offline, not off me. It closed again with that open-mouthed hunger, and I saw my own pale skin in the dead reflection of its eyes. Dalton-stitched burst to my left, tight and low. The thing folded like thin metal that's been bent too many times. I stabbed for the base again and felt that faint live wire buzz. It flinched, changed direction like a fish on a line, and used my knife hand to pull itself closer. My arm lit with white heat. I growled without meaning to. It pressed its teeth until the fabric over my shoulder creaked. Mercer came in from the side and hit a knee with 2 clean taps. The joint went soft. The next second was ugly and fast. Snow under me collapsed. I dropped into hidden void to my hip. My muzzle kicked into my own sling, and the world became ice and weight and leather straps around my neck. The creature took the gift. It was over me before I could plant again. No voice, no words, just that dead breath and the dry groan of a long winter learning to move. It shoved my chest with its sternum and pinned my shoulders with its hands, thin and heavy at once. Teeth found my hood again, lower. Fabric gave like rotten bark. "Left, left!" Dalton barked. His line tore the air above my ear. The creature rolled a shoulder and my window closed. My hands were pinned. The knife was under my ribs, the gun tangled in sling and arm. I had legs. I used them. I hooked a boot behind its calf and chopped, hard. The limbs stuttered. I heaved to the right, not to throw it, just to change the math. We slid together, a tangle of bone and gear, into the carve of a buried log. It loved that. The log caught my back and held me open like a brace. Its jaw came down slow, sure, jack pressure, not anger. Teeth met fabric, then skin. I could feel each tooth as a cold point, like pins laid in a line. My hands found nothing. The knife handle was under me, wrong angle. The gun was a strap and a mistake. Hold, Mercer said again. Closer now. Calm. He wasn't being poetic. He needed the head still. Holding is the worst part. Your body wants to punch and kick. It wants to turn fear into noise. The job was to be a post. I pushed my chin back, hard, until the spine felt like it might complain. I felt the cord inside my own neck, tight as bowstring. Stupid detail at a bad time. The teeth came another inch, my ears filled with a thin ring. The wind dropped for a single breath, and I could hear the tiny tick-tick inside its mouth, a small rhythm like bone tapping bone. Mercer hit it then, not the base this time, lower. He drove the short tool into the notch where throat meets collar and levered. There was a sound like ice cracking on a lake when the pressure shifts. The head kicked sideways, the body spasmed, and I got one arm free. I didn't think. I wedged my forearm into the open of its jaw and shoved up and out, not to pry, to turn, to give Mercer the angle again. Dalton's burst came in low and disciplined, 3 at the hip, 3 at the far knee. The thing sagged, not dead, just a tent with poles kicked out. Mercer shifted his weight and went for the base again. And the mountain decided to erase us. The gust that came off that ridge hit like a door slamming. Snow filled my mouth and nose. My eyes clamped shut on reflex. The creature wrenched, found slack, and blew out of my arms like a sheet ripped off a bed. I clawed at ice and came up with nothing. When I blinked the sting clear, it was gone into the white, and there was nothing but our own breath and the storm. We regrouped by touch. Dalton's glove thumped my shoulder twice. You here? I tapped back twice. Here. Mercer's hand found my rig and adjusted the strap back where it belonged. Simple, fatherly. No words for a few breaths. No one trusts their voice in a blow like that. We push to timber, Mercer said finally, loud enough to beat the wind. We make it choose between close and closer. Timber was 30 yards of bad ground. We went in short dashes, 1 covers, 2 move, then swap, the way you do when everything wants you dead and the clock is not on your side. My legs burned. My face burned from cold and from fear pretending to be air. The trees rose out of the blow like black ribs. We made the first line that saved us and hurt us. Cover is comfort and a trap. The creature used trunks like it had planted them. It ghosted from one to the next, white on white, until one moment there was nothing, and the next it was 5 feet away and moving like hunger, wearing a body. I brought the muzzle up and it knocked it aside with a backhand that felt like getting hit with a board. The stock smashed my cheek. My eyes watered hard. It grabbed my jacket and drove me backward into a spruce. Bark bit my neck. The trunk took the hit and gave nothing back. Teeth opened. They filled my world. The breath from that dead mouth was so cold it felt hot. I've got... Dalton started, but the angle was wrong. He would hit me first. Mercer moved left to clear fast, then had to pull up because the trunk blocked his shot. The creature didn't care about any of that. It pressed. The thin jaw worked, sure and slow. I could feel where it planned to set its teeth. I could see my reflection in the black of its eyes, small and shaking. This is it, my body said. Everything narrowed to a coin-sized place in my vision. The ring in my ears became one long note. The world went a shade dimmer at the edges, like frost creeping across glass. It leaned in. I ran out of room. The teeth touched skin, and then the lights in my head dipped, like a town at night when a power station hiccups. And the last thing I saw was Mercer's hand moving low and hard for the place that makes a body forget what it is. When Mercer's hand moved, it was like the world went back to normal speed all at once. He grabbed the back of that thing's skull and slammed it sideways into the trunk, hard, like he knew exactly how much force the tree could take. The impact made a dull, heavy thud, like hitting frozen meat on concrete. The creature jerked once, and its grip on me loosened. That was the opening. I snapped the MP5 up under its jaw and fired a short, controlled burst. It dropped fast and quiet. No scream, just dead weight sliding down bark. We didn't wait to see if it would twitch again. Mercer drove the blade into the base one more time. The body went limp, like a loose winter coat, and stayed that way. I remember the silence afterwards more than anything. The wind had eased up. The trees just stood there, watching us. Snow fell soft and slow, like the mountain finally exhaled, now that the threat was gone. There was something strange about how small the creature looked once it stopped moving. Starving things always look larger when they're coming for you. Dalton pressed 2 knuckles into my arm. Quick check. You good? Yeah, I said. I'm here. We radioed retrieval. Nobody talked while we waited. Sometimes talking makes things real in the wrong way, and sometimes silence is the only thing that holds your head together. Blackhawks came in 30 minutes later. By then, the blood in the snow had turned dark and glassy. I watched them bag the body. No reverence, no ritual, just operators dealing with the threat and moving on. The world didn't get smaller because of this. It got bigger, worse, deeper, like the woods had new corners now. On the flight back, Mercer sat across from me. Didn't speak, just nodded once. Approval or warning, hard to tell with him. I stared out the open side panel as the mountain disappeared under cloud. My friends in 88 died scared and confused. I didn't. Not this time. I wasn't lucky. I wasn't blessed. I was better. That realization hollowed me out. Because this wasn't bravery, it was adaptation. This is who I am now.